Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roach.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
We are here with our Mayfair Witches Season 2, Episode 5 reaction and review.
Mhm.
It looks like we might be on the move here, people, sooner rather than later for some of these characters.
Yep, everybody going to Scotland. Let's go.
I was wondering when we were going to be getting to this point on the show, because I remember back when this was filming, I believe they used Ireland a lot at the double for Scotland, but I remember seeing, a lot of the cast is going out there. I wonder what that's going to look like. And, we're not readers of the source material, so we didn't exactly know where this was coming. We're actually going there a little bit faster than I expected. I kind of thought that maybe just the finale was going to be kind of around that spot.
When are they running into Jamie and Claire on Outlander?
You know what would be very... Okay, listen, I could go down a very, very big... Don't worry, Rowan. Roger and Bree are here to save you. They're here to help. I don't know how they're going to time travel to that particular era. That's an entirely different story, but...
Listen, they seem to be going to Thralls. We got Rowan going into some sort of other weird spot with Julian. They seem to be able to go all over the place, so this is not out of the realm of possibility. Let's have the Mayfair Witches Outlander crossover.
Listen, we have Rowan in this episode talking to herself like inside a house. We have this, it almost felt like we had Annie and Audi Rowan from Severance in here.
100%. I was totally feeling the same vibes. I'm just gonna say, I really like this episode a lot. I loved seeing Rowan and Julian together. I love that Severance feeling of the innies and the outies and trying to be able to communicate with each other but not being able to. And that huge reveal at the end where they are in Scotland and Cortland has a brother and this brother is just diabolical. It's just, they're really setting up a lot for the end of this season.
This episode was really, really cool. I think we got some very big reveals. There's also some stuff that just legitimately surprised me that we'll get into, where I would have probably had a very different reaction if I was in certain situations here.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about how Lark was really like, oh, you're a witch? Oh, there's a demon that's controlling your powers? Oh, okay. It's like he was like, she's like, oh, let's order from Popeyes tonight. Did you want the spicy chicken or something else? Did you know that there's spicy chicken on the menu? Oh man, I didn't know. I didn't know there was a spicy chicken sandwich. I think I'll have that. I'm all right with that. I was like, you've just been told the most crazy information and you're just like, hand me the spicy chicken sandwich.
We're going to get more into that. Before we do, though, hit that subscribe button, guys, because we are going to be here with a lot more Mayfair Witches before the end of this season. And of course, this is a part of the greater Anne Rice universe with the Talamasca coming and Interview with the Vampire coming back. We are a one-stop shop for all of that.
Absolutely. So hit that subscribe button and stick with us.
Okay.
Let's just get into our guy, Lark. And he's both of our guys now. We both really like him. And I think his storyline is pretty interesting because of the fact that he is human. He's basically the only human on the show that has no special powers. And watching Rowan's emotional self, she's got her innie and her outie, and her outie is all her emotions and her innie is stuck with Julian and all intellect, and her emotional outie is just pouring everything out onto Lark, who is very accepting of all of this stuff. She's even like, let me show you my powers. Okay, that's cool. Let's start scraping some teeth. I'm like, this is a lot of information for human, no special powers to take in. And I was really surprised he took it in the way that he did. I understand you love somebody and whatever they tell you, you're going to be accepting of it, but you're still going to have a reaction.
There's either one of two things going on here with Lark. Either he is the most understanding person who has ever lived, or he is down bad so far that he is in the center of the earth. Like, I have no other explanation for this behavior, because if this was me, if I was in this situation, I'm going to spoil the season 1 mid-season finale of The Flash, everybody. I apologize for it.
That's a deep pull, man.
Yeah, listen, I would have been like that moment when the Reverse Flash killed Cisco, and I know that didn't end up sticking, but when it looked like it was going to stick, I was about to punch my TV and walk out of the room. I was so upset. I would be so shocked in this moment. I would have just left the house, wandered out into the street, and she would have had to pull me back in. And I'm just like, you're just sitting here and you're just being like, okay. And you are a saint, Lark. You are the most patient person who has ever lived.
Listen, if someone that I really loved came up to me and was like, I am a witch and I have special powers and it only works if I'm linked to this demon, I'd be like, oh, listen, I love you, but I need a minute.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute and I will come back and we will talk about it further. But you have given me a lot of information that I really just need. I need a minute. And it felt like Lark probably needed that as well. And I understand that this was very time sensitive.
Yeah.
We had the hourglass running out, but Audie Rowan here, she didn't know about it. She was like, yeah, something's off, but whatever. They didn't know that they were under any kind of time crunch. And I feel like Lark, he needed a minute.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, it is both the worst and the best part of this episode at the same time because it's giving us so much comedic fodder.
Yeah, I actually really loved seeing emotional Rowan just pouring her heart out. It was the most sort of just, I knew she was talking about her witchcraft and everything else, but it was just the most human moment that I've seen from her in a long time where she was connecting with someone with no powers and was just unburdening herself with someone that she loves, someone that she trusts, and is just having that very human moment of, I just need to lean on you, man. And, you know, her having like just this do later when she's talking to Dolly Jean being like, okay, yeah, I told him everything, but let's just give him the forgetful tea that they borrowed from, you know, Arrow here, where it's like, oh, it'll heal all, this penicillin tea. Let's just give him this and he'll just forget this little bit of information. And Dolly Jean's like, oh no, girl, that is not how this tea works. He is not even going to remember you. I was just like, Rowan, you had to have known that this is, how did you think this tea worked?
Who would have known we would have had two Arrowverse references within the same video? But beyond all that, like, you know, I mean, there are parts of this story where I rolled my eyes a little, but at the same time, all of this was incredibly entertaining. And it's setting up this idea now that Rowan is going to have Lark around, who kind of knows some stuff, who gives her a little bit more of an emotional ally.
Who did not drink the tea.
And so
he got that slapped right out of his hand.
Listen, I think this is going to be important and useful long term. I'm glad that we didn't wait forever on this, because then I would have been really annoyed if it's like Mayfair Witches season 4, Lark is still somehow in the dark when there's a million signs right in front of his face.
I'm just gonna say this is my favorite episode of every season of the show.
Wow.
I absolutely loved it. It was so entertaining.
All the stuff with Lark was really, really entertaining. And I will just say, from a visual standpoint, how they decided to frame the Annie and Audie worlds for Rowan, I think was really, really smart. Because I know there was probably a certain amount of visual effects that went into her having to basically watch herself within the house. But I thought it was
cool.
It was a really compelling way to frame it, because they could have just done here's like a flashback or a flash to this other screen effect. Like they could have done something like that, but I think it kind of gave us a more direct point of view for a lot of it, and we got a real sense as to, her frustrations, but also through all of this, like how wicked and how sinister Julian can be. So I think it really informed both of those characters in a way that was really, really smart.
Yeah, I loved the house and the effect of the dollhouse that was in Julian's world, that he was able to affect stuff going on in the house. Maybe not a lot, but enough that he can blow open the door. And I was just like, this is really powerful, that he still has this much power that he can affect what's going on in the outside world with his family, one of his families. Man, there was a lot of reveals with Julian. So Julian ended up revealing that he also gave Lasher his body. I thought I did not expect that. at all. Everything with Marguerite, and that he's the person that ripped out the journal pages about the Taltos, that he's hiding that stuff, that he's just like, no, I had that special relationship with her. No one else is going to have that type of special relationship. It's just me and, the old deities, and nobody else understands it. The reveal
Mhm.
that he has a second family out in Scotland. Cortland has a brother, Ian, who's just completely diabolical,
Yeah.
and that is Julian's main family, the people that he really actually is devoted to. It was great. I love this episode so much.
I think Ted Levine, it's time to talk about how good you are, because this is the
Right?
thing. Like, I know a lot of people know him as Buffalo Bill. I get that, but I watched the USA series Monk for a very, very long time, and he is Captain Schottenheimer. I can't even say your name. He was the captain over on Monk, but that character he played there was very warm. And while he was kind of hard-nosed at times, you
Mhm.
really, really liked him. And I think that works well with Julian, because
Yeah.
that he can be sinister and terrible and all of
Yes.
these other things, but he can also present warmth. He can bring a lot of different emotions to the table. And I think having this sort of adversary for Rowan was really interesting because, yeah, he's unpredictable. He can reveal things that you don't necessarily see coming. And it also raises other questions about how parts of the universe work, where it's like, oh, Lasher can just take somebody for a test drive and then the person can, find a way to get themselves back. I still, and this is one of the things that I have a hard time wrapping my head around, is I still don't really understand fully how Lasher works as, a force in this universe.
Yeah, I'm still having a bit of a difficulty with that as well. Neither of us have read the book, so
Yeah.
we don't have a lot of background on that. We just have what the show has presented us. And I
Yeah.
know that we're not supposed to know exactly why it's the 13th witch is going to give birth to this body that Lasher's going to be able to have, and it's his human body. I'm like, okay, I get all that, and
Yeah.
that's where we are. But the minute that Julian was like, you're not the only person that gave Lasher their
Yeah.
body, I gave mine as well. And I'm just like, well, then what happened there? Like, how did that work out for you?
Yeah.
Is that part of why you're in this problem now? Like, how, did you need to do that to be able to sort of help along with the 13 witches that would bring along like how did this all unfold, and why did it unfold, and why didn't Lasher just keep your body?
I'm just struggling a lot with this idea of, is this whole 13th witch thing a little bit of fool's gold? Like, is this just something that's being told to give everybody, a place in line? Like, I'm getting a little bit here of, I don't know, Bene Gesserit Dune stuff going on, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, is this prophecy really the prophecy? Are there ways to circumvent this? Like, how set in stone are a lot of different moving parts of this universe? Like, that stuff I don't understand, and maybe that's stuff I'm not really meant to. Maybe this is sort of all about how Rowan can eventually rebel against pretty much any preconceived notion in her family. And I would kind of like to see somebody like just take an axe to this entire Rowan family, I mean, Mayfair family, what's
Mhm.
supposed to be, what's not supposed to be, because I just think that's the most interesting outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we'd actually had a little more time with Julian to learn more about his relationship with Albrecht. I
Yeah.
mean, Rowan had brought it up, was this your lover that took you out there? No, 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 we're not lovers, so what was this relationship? Because clearly Julian has a relationship with Lasher.
Yeah.
Albrecht has enough of a relationship with Lasher that he's willing to take Lasher out to Scotland with sort of the old deities and Julian's family that's out there with
Yeah.
Ian, meet up with them. Hey, we're all part of this together. It's just like, what is his connection then at this point to Julian,
Yeah.
to Ian, to Lasher, to bring Lasher out there to just end up dead? I needed the background of Albrecht and how this all unfolded. And now that he's dead, I'm like, who's telling his story?
Yeah, maybe we'll get flashbacks. Maybe somebody else in Scotland can tell us something. I mean, my first reaction to all of this was just like, well, Albrecht, guess you're not going to be in the Telemaska spinoff.
Nope.
That's the end of that. No, I was surprised to see him go at this particular time, but it's good to continue to have that sort of unpredictability that's going on here, like, I have to assume, and I guess this is tinfoil hat, like, I
Yeah.
have to assume that there is enough of a long-standing history between these people that Albrecht felt like he could do this and nothing was going to happen to him. And I mean, this speaks a little bit to what Cortland has tried to do here and there on
Mhm.
the show, where relationships build trust. And I think if you build trust with people, even if they're perceived in the larger scheme of things to be quote unquote enemies, you still might be able to kind of make a common goal.
Here's the thing about Cortland. I feel like they're trying to give Cortland some sort of a redemption arc this season.
Yeah.
You can never redeem him for what he did to Deidre. There is no redeeming that
Yeah.
ever. So it's interesting to see the show kind of try to have him be helpful and
Yep.
sit with Moira and try to get back his memories and all that sort of thing, to be like, yeah, I really want to help Jojo and Daphne. I want to help get
Yeah.
them out of this thrall. What can I remember? What can we do to be able to do this? Oh, I remember going to Scotland. I remember Ian. I remember what he did to this little girl and these lambs and how diabolical he is. And now I remember that he's my brother and that Julian has this whole other family out there. Okay, great. It's great that you're giving that information. But for me,
Yeah.
I can't get past what he did. I just can't get past what he did. He's never going to be able to be redeemed for me. I don't care how helpful he is. You can't take that back.
Yeah, I've got really complicated feelings about him, where I like watching him. Most of that's just because I like Harry Hamlin,
I like
and
Harry
I think
Hamlin.
he's been really good these past few episodes.
Yeah,
but
he has been.
the problem is that I can never trust him, and I think that's the real issue here. Is that as much as they could sort of try to send him on a redemption tour, if that's even what they're doing, like they're certainly making him look like he's more helpful than he's ever been. It's
Mhm.
just as a viewer, I never think that he's just doing this for a motive that's apparent. Like, I'm always going to think that he's going to turn around and betray these people. And so it's really hard for me to get invested in anything that he's doing, when I just think he's going to make me really mad, because especially with Moira, because Moira to me is probably the most likable character on the show to me at this point, where
Yeah.
it's just like, I think her powers are really interesting. I don't get mad at her anywhere near as much as I get mad at Rowan. And it's just like, you're just trying to do your best, and you've been put in a really, really hard situation, Moira.
I love Moira. She is the best addition to the show. I mean, I also really liked Julian, not because oh, I like him, he's a decent guy,
Yeah.
but he's just a very fascinating, compelling bad guy.
Yeah.
Where for me with Cortland is also a fascinating bad guy that I just can't forgive.
I think the big question, and I don't have an answer to this yet, but the thing that I'm a little bit concerned but also interested about moving forward is, are there going to be too many characters on Mayfair Witches? Because we already have everyone we've talked about in this video, including Sip, who didn't have as much to do in this episode.
Yeah.
But then we're also going to be introducing potentially all these people in Scotland. I mean, we've already talked
Yes.
a little bit about Ian, and it's just like, for people who aren't book readers like us, who don't have this established history, like,
Mhm.
is this all going to get a little bit too complicated for a show that really doesn't have that many episodes?
Everybody just needs to get to Scotland. We are covering Prime Target right now
Yeah.
over on our Patreon. We'll leave a link for you
Mhm.
below if you want to check out those videos. It's the only place you can get them.
Yeah.
And the same kind of thing is happening over there right now, where we've got groups of characters that all need to just be in the same place where
Yeah.
everything is going on. And I know we were just sort of introduced to this. Rowan just found out about Scotland.
Yeah.
Moira just found out about Ian and what's going on. It is next episode. Everybody needs to be on that plane and heading out there. Grab Sip, you all go.
That would be really fun and also really, really awkward.
I want to be on that plane ride. Let's go.
Okay, I'm
Bring Lark as well. He knows everything anyways.
I'm gonna give you the plane arrangement here. You're gonna have
That Victrola also needs to be on the
you're gonna
plane.
put the Victrola's gonna get a seat.
Let's go, Julian.
See, I'm just saying, we got Sip on this seat, we have Rowan in the middle, we have Lark on the other seat. They're all on the same row together. They're just kind of like constantly like sizing each other up. The Victrola's right behind Rowan, so you don't know.
Where you have Dolly on one side and then you got Evelyn on the other.
It's just, the characters on this show are really fleshed out pretty well at this
Yeah.
point. We know a little bit about what motivates them, but I think because of all that, and also just because of the weirdest love triangle of all time. I don't even know if we can call it a love triangle at this point, but whatever's going on with Rowan, Sip, and Lark, it's just, there's a lot of potential for these relationships to interact and kind of combust in really, really fun ways. And if I had to give some advice to Mayfair Witches heading into these final episodes of the season, just embrace all of this stuff. Just like really have a good time with it, because yeah, it's easy to poke fun at the stuff with Lark. We've already done it, but it was really, really fun. And it's just lean into that.
Okay, so as I've said, I haven't read the books. I don't really know what the timeline is. I'm just throwing that out there because it sounds like Cortland had said that Julian met up with basically two wives that were there. Is this Dolly Jean and Evelyn? I know that Evelyn's been around for quite a long time. They're both still having relationships with Julian and going through the Victrola to spend time with him and dance with him and love him. Is this Ian's moms? Like, what is going on here?
I don't think we can rule it out. Like, I think there's certainly something there. And in a way, it would make a little bit more sense, because then you're just condensing the possible characters we're seeing here a little bit. And
and really tying it kind of all together in that way.
yeah, it gives the people we already know more to do, which I think is important, at least for the show.
Yes.
But that is where we are coming out of Mayfair Witches Season 2, Episode 5. Thank you guys for going through the Victrola with us. This was a very fun discussion. You can hit that subscribe button for more Mayfair Witches. Also join our Patreon, as Jess said earlier. That link is in the description below. We are covering Prime Target there, and also beyond that, we are also in the midst of The Pit over on Max if you like a really, really good medical drama. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you here next time.